She is cool. She is methodical. She would not stab a man to death. She would sue him in court.
Theatre, from the ancient Greek, theatron, the most dramatic of the transformers. It means a place for viewing. Here's a Roman theatre. They were quite simple back then. You have the stage, the auditorium, and the vomitorium. Now, for a very long time, people thought that the vomitorium was a place where the Romans would gorge themselves, where they would eat so much that they would throw up and then gorge themselves again because they were so decadent and/or bulimic. But it comes from the word vomere, which means to spew forth, because that's where people go in and out. So vomitorium is just a dramatic way of saying the entrance.
How has the nature of performing evolved over time?
I feel like it's evolved in many ways.
I think it's evolved with like more cameras sometimes being on like shows and stuff. Instead of having to go see the play and that being the only time you can see it, now you can rewatch it.
English and how we talk.
Cameras, lights, and like sound, like, you know?
Well, you think right now, you think about it, and you've got so much entertainment all around you. I mean, people able to put their own videos up on YouTube and TikTok and television stations, all sorts of television stations, all sorts of channels to watch, and all sorts of studios. You got Netflix and Prime Video and, you know, all the other major studios, independent filmmakers. There are so many opportunities right now for performing and entertainment, and that's just in, like, you know, the nature of film, and for, you know, couple that with live stage performances as well. But even going back 100 years, there was not all that stuff around. The majority of people, say 100 years ago, they were really starved for entertainment. There wasn't all that stuff around, and it was a big deal if they went out and saw a live stage show on a Friday night or a Saturday night, or you know, even went to one of the movies back then. And of course, you know, you've seen how movies have drastically changed in the last 100 years. And so really you just see a lot more opportunity, I think, for people trying their own things, making their own movies, making their own performance art. And I don't know, you just see doors opening that just were not there. Going out through the last few hundred years. And even, I mean, I even remember when I was growing up, we didn't have all these television stations. We had, like, you know, 7, 8, 9 channels, and that was it. And it was very limited. If you wanted to be in a movie or a TV show, near impossible. Now, if you want to, it can happen. And if you can't get somebody to put you in their show, you can just put yourself in your own show and automatically be on a streaming platform.
What is the best way to express emotion to an audience?
That's a good question.
Facials and tone, I feel like. Because if you just talk like you're monotone, nobody knows how you're feeling.
I don't know what the best way to express emotion to an audience, but I know various ways of doing it. And you may just have to find out what happens to be the best way for the certain project you're working on. Sometimes it's done through music in the background, or subtle lighting changes that happen, or facial expressions, or the dramatic nature of your voice or body language. There's lots of different ways to approach it. My personal way, I mean, I think facial expressions are very telling, especially if you're up close with an audience. If you're way far back, the audience will never see your face, it won't matter. Then you'd have to resort to big gestures, body language. But if you got an up-close audience, facial expressions, eyes, work the eyes, that's my favorite.
The best way to express emotions to an audience is to be able to kind of show it more than just say it.
By your facial expressions or your body language.
Best way to express emotions to the audience is to be able to show facial expressions and body gestures to express mainly how the character feels.
You skip forward to the 1800s, things are getting a lot more modernized, but they still didn't have electric, so they had what's called the limelight. And that's why they say, to be in the limelight, to be the star of the show. What they would do was take a piece of quicklime and heat it up super hot, which will naturally glow very bright. They would then take reflective mirrors and lenses to focus the beam, and they would use that as an early form of the spotlight. The limelight is not because it's green, but because it's made from quicklime. In the modern day, things are a lot more advanced, and they can do all sorts of cool shit with like lasers going into your eyeballs and all sorts of stuff. But it's not just the tech that's had an upgrade, it's the architecture as well. In Elizabethan times, they had the yard, and you could get in here for about a penny apiece. And that's where all the poor people stood to watch the shows. It's like when you go to Oppenheimer and you end up with the worst seats in the IMAX theater, right? But thankfully, in modern times, we have fixed that problem. We kicked out all the poor people and we sunk the floor down low and put in an orchestra pit.
What is the goal of a performer?
To entertain, to keep their character, stay in character. Yeah, make the audience happy.
The goal of a performer is to entertain the audience and make sure that the audience is enjoying what they're being shown.
Is to make people happy and to entertain them.
The goal of the performer is to perform. And it may seem like a simple answer. Of course, it's to perform. But it also depends on what that performer is performing. If it's to go out and their job is to simply make the audience be entertained, well then go out, perform, entertain the audience. But sometimes it's to deliver a message. And if the performer has that job and they go out and the audience is entertained, they laughed and they walk away and they don't have the message, then maybe the performer didn't quite do their job. Maybe the performer's job is to uplift. And just right now, you think of stuff that's going on, even this week. People are losing their homes all over the place to a fire that's happening. We've had like 600,000 people, I think I read, that have not had electricity in their homes, and people are, they're feeling kind of down this week and this last weekend, many people. And sometimes a performer can simply go in and say, you know what, let me take you away from all that for a little bit. Let me give you this gift. It may not change your life, but maybe for the next hour and a half, I could put a smile on your face, or I can do something for you. And so I don't know, the performer, they may not be doctors or a lawyer, engineer, anything like that, but sometimes they can really go in and do some. They can uplift and they can teach, and they can make you smile and they can make you cry.
How do you personally capture your audience's attention?
By facial expressions and body language.
I try to feel the vibe and the energy of the audience. The first thing I got to do is make that connection. Go out, and if I cannot connect with their vibe and their energy, I'm in big trouble for a performer. I've been in a few of those cases. Luckily, it's a very small percentage where something just doesn't land, but that's a nightmare. You want to go out there and you want to immediately just make eye contact with them, get energy with them. Now, if it's a stage show, you don't want to break the fourth wall. You've got to find the energy in another way, but you can feel a certain energy in the room, and that's what I would start with, like just feeling where the energy is and following that energy and bringing on a great show.
For cheer and stuff, I tend to do facials for it. Facials and because then you want people to be attracted to you. You want people to be drawn in. So.
Personally, it's through my facial expressions usually. I have some silly faces sometimes.
Whether or not to put me on Ritalin. Instead, they decided to enroll me in a theater class at the Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette in Indiana. The infamous director of that class, Ann Welsh, took one look at a child that had been diagnosed overly energized, unfocused, erratic, and she said, "That child right there is an artist." And she said, "Artists are the ones who change the world."
How does performing influence society?
It just makes people happy, you know?
Performing influences society in many ways.
It helps a lot of people, like some people with social anxiety, it helps them improve, like relax if they find something they love. And other kids can be influenced by it, other people. If they go see a play and they see how somebody acted, they're like, you know?
One way it does is it shows character and it shows how to express yourself in a different way, which is really good for today's society, to express yourself the way you want to in a form of art.
I think performing influences society. We often give performers a lot of credit, and sometimes a little bit too much credit, I think. Sometimes you look at these performers and just, and especially in America, I should say this, this is a very American idea, but we look at these people like, you know, if I just throw the name Kardashian out there, everybody will know what we're talking about. And wow, we've got to go out and buy clothes like the Kardashians, and ooh, I want that car because they have that. And the Kardashians, that is what I think that beauty is. And you know, these things get put in front of us, and they do influence us quite a bit. And when you're growing up and you're watching these things, sometimes even before you really kind of start to learn for yourself. I mean, like, you know, if you're really little and you get put in front of the television set, you know, you might learn a few words that you're not supposed to say. You might learn a few ideas that your parents don't want you to know. And it just could be, I mean, those ideas could be like you watch some bratty kid in on the screen, and the parents come in and take out the trash. No, I don't want to take out the trash, and they run out, and all of a sudden, you know, the kids watching are like, that's funny. I'm going to do that, because it's an influence, and sometimes we don't know that we're being influenced. I think, and it could be anywhere way from you know, looking at somebody, we have to have that car, we have to dress like that. Boom, boom, boom. It can be a lot of ways that society is influenced, and especially, like I mentioned in an earlier answer, now that we've got YouTube, we've got TikTok, anybody can get up there and start giving their opinions on anything, and that is a great thing, and it also is something that, you know, we need to be careful of because of the influence that it can have. We want it to be a positive influence, not a negative influence. You know what I'm saying?
To see from a front row seat how theater can and does change people one at a time. Let me give you 3 examples. Theater allows us to experience wrongness in real time, right? Think about it. When was the last time you said to yourself, I am wrong, and then continued forward and you're also comfortable knowing wrongness? Never. It is cognitively impossible. You have to go through a change or a transformation. Something has to happen for you to arrive at the statement, I was wrong. And any good piece of theater has a moment where somebody or a group of somebodies get it dead wrong. Think about Tevye in the opening of Fiddler on the Roof when he sings Tradition, right? Never before was there a man more wrong that things would never change. Because when you're wrong, it means change is afoot. This past summer, we produced the stunning play, Wedding Band, a love-hate story in black and white by Alice Childress. Yeah, I get it. This stunning play tells the story of Julia, a black seamstress, and Herman, a white baker, and their hard-won love story in 1918 Jim Crow, South Carolina. Let that sink in. In the climactic moment of the play, Julia finally confronts Herman for his privilege and responsibility as a white man, and try as he might to deflect and defend by saying, "I didn't do it. It wasn't me who did that to your people, and we have troubles too." Julia pressed on, because what you don't say, you swallow down, she says. And she says, "But it was your people that did that to my people." And in that moment, Herman does something that he has never done before. He takes responsibility. And only in that moment can the two of them and all of us gathered around them begin our healing. Theater, the gathering of humans in a room telling stories, allows that which has gone unsaid to be spoken. Not only can it be spoken, but a path forward is proposed. Very simply in this case, a white man is looking at a black woman, both with tears in their eyes, and he says, "It wasn't the law, it was me. And I failed you in every way." It's so simple. I love to think that then the actors toss that to the audience like a ball and say, "Catch. What are you going to do with this?"